We're going to look at some of the 2016 non-calculator paper questions. I want you to go over them, listen to them, and then see if you can do them on your own. And we'll do this in wee groups of different questions. So question number 1 for 2 marks. It should be easy. It's the start of a paper. So it says, find the equation of the line passing through the point, which is parallel to. So to get the equation of a straight line, we need 2 things. We need a point and we need a gradient. So they've given us the point, it's passing through the point minus 2, 3. We don't have enough information to work out a gradient using y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. But we're told it's parallel to this one. So it's the indirect way of getting the gradient. So we take y is equal to, we make y equal to, take 4x away from both sides, and the plus 7 is there. So the gradient of that line is equal to minus 4. Parallel lines have the same gradient, so m1 equals m2 equals negative 4. So we've now got a gradient for that line. So we're back to y minus b is equal to m times x minus a. So therefore y minus b becomes y minus 3 is equal to minus 4 times x minus minus 2, so it's x plus 2. Tidy all of that up and we get y minus 3 is equal to minus 4x's minus 8. We don't want that minus 3 to be there, add it to both sides. So minus 4x's is going to be also at the end of that, add 3 onto that is minus 5. And that's the equation of your straight line. Okay, next question. Given that y is equal to that, find dy by dx. Now that's about the domain. That's your domain coming in, but you don't need to worry about that. It's telling you x has got to be greater than 0 because you've got a square root, and square roots have got to be greater than 0. Right, we've got to prepare this so that we can take the derivative of it. And by now, you shouldn't even have to think about this. The square root of x is x to the power of a half. You should know that now. So now it's prepared. We want to take the derivative, so dy by dx, multiply by the power, take 1 away from the power. 3 times 12 is 36, and that'll be x to the power of 2. A half times 8 is a half of 8 is plus 4. X to the power of a half, take away 1, is the same as a half, take away 2 halves. So one of them, take away 2 of them, is minus a half. And that's your answer to that one. Next question is on your sequences. A sequence is defined by the recurrence relation un plus 1 equals a third un plus 10 where u3 is equal to 6. Find the exact value of u4. Okay, so we want the connection between u4 and u3. So u4 is equal to, I'm going up here, it's going to be a third of u3 plus 10. So that is equal to a third times u3 is 6, add on 10. A third of 6 is 2, 2 plus 10 gives me an answer of 12. Only 1 mark, that's quite an easy wee question to do. Next one also should be easy because it's only 1 mark. Explain why this sequence has a limit as n approaches infinity. It's got a limit because that 1/3, the number before un, lies between minus 1 and 1 statement. And you just write it down. Part C, we want to calculate this limit. So for part C, we're going to change un plus 1 into L. So L is equal to 1/3 of L, because all those terms become the same as you approach a limit. And we've got a plus 10. Right, wee bit of fraction work. 1, take away a third. So 1 is 3/3, take away 1/3 is 2/3. So 2/3 of L is equal to 10. And then we just tidy that up by saying L is equal to, instead of dividing by 3, we times by 3. And instead of multiplying by 2, we do the opposite, we divide by 2. So L is equal to 30 divided by 2 is 15. Okay. Question 6. It says functions f and g are defined in a set of real numbers. The inverse function f inverse and g inverse both exist, so we know they're there. And it tells us that given that fx is equal to 3x plus 5, find f inverse. Okay, so when you have an inverse function, all the x's and y's all swap over. So we write down our y is equal to 3x plus 5 and we swap it around so that we've got x equal to something. So 3x plus 5 is equal to y, take 5 away from both sides, so y minus 5, and then x is equal to y minus 5 divided by 3. Now we want this in terms of the inverse in terms of x. So we do f inverse, but we want it in terms of x. That's the answer sitting there. So that becomes x minus 5 all divided by 3. Now the next part of this one is just 1 mark. And it's just a wee question to test if you really know what you're talking about. So if G2, that's your x number, and that becomes the answer, so that's like the y number. So if G2 equals 7, write down the value of G inverse 7. So they swap over. So the 7 was the y number, it becomes x, and the answer to that will swap around and it'll become the 2. So write down the value of that's equal to 2. 1 mark, it's just you either know it or you don't, so you learn how to do all of these wee. We're now getting towards the end of the paper, so questions are getting a wee bit longer and a wee bit more challenging. So this one, find the coordinates, the x coordinate. So all we want the x coordinate are the stationary points on the graph with the equation y equals fx, where fx is equal to. So where do stationary points occur? So stationary points occur when f dash x equals 0. Or dy by dx equals 0. Either one, doesn't matter what you write down. Right, I've chosen fx, so I've got fx is equal to x cubed plus 3x squared minus 24x's. I want to find f dash x, so the derivative, multiply the power, take 1 away from the power is 3x squared plus 6x's minus 24. So that's got to be equal to 0. So 3x squared plus 6x minus 24 has got to be equal to 0. Keyword here is factorise. I can see a common factor of 3. I'm going to pull that out. So I've got x squared plus 2x's minus 8 equals 0. If I divide both sides by 3, then I've just got x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So we want to factorise that. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 8. And the combination of them gives me a 2. So that is going to be 4 and 2. I want a plus 2. So the positive 1 is going to go with the biggest number, and minus 1. So either x minus 2 equals 0, giving me an x value equal to 2, or x plus 4 equals 0, giving me an x value of negative 4. Now, they only asked for the x coordinates of the stationary points. That's us, we've done that bit. Part B of this question, it says hence, so we're using the bit we've done before, determine the range of values of x for which the function is strictly increasing. So a function is increasing when f dash x is greater than 0. So f dash x, we had worked out the brackets where x minus 2 times x plus 4, and that's got to be greater than 0. That's an inequality. To solve an inequality, you have got to sketch the graph. So I know that this graph is a parabola, and it's going to cut the x-axis at 2 points, and it's going to cut the x-axis when x is equal to 2, and it's going to cut the x-axis when x is equal to negative 4. Okay, so make each bracket equal to 0 and get your two answers. Now we want the bit of the graph that is greater than 0. The bit of the graph that's greater than 0 is the bit above the x-axis, because all the y numbers would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want all the bits that are greater than 0. So all of the parts of that graph, and I'm just going to slip them all down onto that x-axis. And all those bits there, I'm going to slip them all down onto the x-axis. And it would be all the values that I want to draw along that way. And it would be all the values that I want to draw along that way. So how do we describe them? That bit there, it's starting at negative 4, and it's all the bits going down. So it's got to be x is less than negative 4. And it's starting at 2 and it's going up the way, so x has got to be greater than 2. 4 and 2 are not included in it because that's where they're equal to 0 and we want them greater than 0. So for this one it says the functions f and g are defined in a set of real numbers given by f, x is equal to that and gx is equal to that. Part A, given that hx is equal to f of gx, we've got to prove it equal to that thing there. So just ignore it just now. we'll go through. So leave your function f, put gx in the bracket, which is 3 minus x. So that function is doing 2 times whatever is in the bracket squared minus 4 times whatever is in the bracket, and then add on 5. So we're really replacing that bracket with 3 minus x. So that becomes 2 times 3 minus x all squared minus 4 times 3 minus x and plus 5. So we want to tidy that up a wee bit because we've got to show equal to that. So we'll square this bracket first, or we'll square the bracket first. So square the first, 3 3s are 9. Multiply the two of them together and double it. So 3 times negative x is negative 3x, double it to negative 6x, and square the last is plus x squared. Then we've got minus 4 times 3 is minus 12, minus 4 times minus x is plus 4x's, and a wee plus 5. I've still got a bracket here at the front. So 2 times 9 gives us 18, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12x's, and 2x squared. And then we've got minus 12 plus 4x's plus 5. So we'll gather the x squareds, the x's, and the numbers together. So there's one term with an x squared in it. So we've got 2x squareds. Then we'll gather the terms with x's. So I've got minus 12 plus 4x. So that's going to give me plus and minus, 8x's. And then we've got our numbers. So for the number part of that, we've got 18. I want to take away 12. So 18 take away 12 is 6. 6 add on 5. So 6 and 5 is 11. And we'll check and see if it's the same. Show that 2x squared minus 8x plus 11. So we're fine. Okay, part B of this one. It says express hx in that form. So that means we've got to complete the square. So for part B, we've got 2x squared minus 8x's plus 11, and we want to complete the square. We can't complete a square because there's a 2 there, so we take the 2 out, and that would become x squared minus 4x's in the bracket. A square bracket, we're completing the square, we do it in a square bracket. The plus 11 stays at the end. So now we complete that square as normal. So we halve the coefficient of x, so that gets halved and it goes into the bracket. So we end up with x minus 2 all squared. But we've got to subtract that number squared, so we're taking away 4. The plus 11 just stays where it is. Last thing I have to do is tidy up that wee part of the bracket. So 2 times the bracket is 2 bracket x minus 2 all squared. 2 times minus 4 is minus 8. We've got a plus 11. So that gives me 2x minus 2 all squared plus 3. Now, you're not asked this in this question. It just says, and we'll scoot back up there, express each x in the form. So we've done that. So this is a wee extra bit. The turning point for that one is, remember, change and keep. So 2, 3. So that means you have got a parabola. It's an x squared term, so it's a parabola. The lowest point, the turning point, is 2, 3. So if they ask you what is the minimum value, it's got a minimum, it's a minimum turning point, so it's got a minimum value. The minimum value just means what's the value of x that goes to? What's the lowest value of x? Not x, sorry, lowest value of y. Okay, not x, lowest value of y. So the y coordinate there is 3. So the minimum value of that one, min value, is equal to 3. So when you're asked maximum or minimum values, it's the y coordinate they're asking. Now, sometimes they say, where does it occur? So it occurs when x equals 2. It occurs at x equal to 2. So that wee bit there is just a wee extra bit, okay? But it might be needed in other questions. So while we're doing it and we can see it, we'll just go through it. Okay, last equation, or last question I should say. The diagram below shows a graph of equation y is equal to fx, where fx is equal to k, x minus a, x minus b, all squared. Now, you've done questions like this and you were never ever given it in that format. So it's easier if you're given that. So we've got a repeated root. These a's and b's tell me what the roots are. So there's a repeated one because we know it's repeated because there's a turning point on it. And there's your other root there, which is that one there. So the values in the bracket, we swap them over. So that would go to a 5 in the bracket, and that one there would go to a -4 in the bracket. So looking at this, fx or y, it doesn't matter. That's k times, and we've got 2 brackets. The repeated root, that's the one that's x minus b, because it's x minus b times x minus b. So that's got to be at this point here. So it's coming from the root -5, change the sign. So that becomes x plus 5 all squared. And the other one is just a normal one. It's cutting right the way through. It's not a turning point. That one's not going through. It's turning, it's going back. So we change the sign of that one to -4. And that gives us that part of the brackets. Now, we've got to work out what k is. So you look for the point that you've not used. And it's one that's not a root. There, it's there. So we've got the 0.19. So what does a point mean? It's an x value. So that tells me x is equal to 1 when y is equal to 9. So we sub them into this equation and we can work out what k is. So we've got y is just your fx, so 9 is equal to k times x is 1, so it's 1 minus 4 times 1 plus 5 all squared. Now, in a lot of the questions you did x was 0. It gave you the y-intercept. It can give you any point, so we don't have x equal to 0. So just watch out for that. So 9 is equal to k times 1 minus 4 is -3. And then we've got 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So -3 times 36 times k is equal to 9. So k is equal to 9 divided by -3 times 36. Now I'm not working that out just now, it's a non-calculator paper, so I'm going to cancel down because I can see that 3 divides into all these numbers. So 3 into 9 goes 3 times, that cancels that out. And then 3 into 3 goes once, and 3 into 36 goes 12 times. So k turns out to be negative sign, you must bring it up to the top, -1/12. So I didn't do 3 times 36 because I could see that there was a 9 at the other side and I knew numbers would cancel. You've got to be able to get tuned into this. It will save you a lot of time. So what we've got then is we've got fx or y is equal to -1/12, and it was x minus 4 times x plus 5 all squared. Now this question is saying find the values of a, b and c. I'm going to go back up to the top of that because they had written down, and they've got minus signs in here. So they had written down y is equal to k times x minus a, and in the other bracket they had x minus b all squared. So when we compare them, so ignore the minus signs because it's in both of them. So a is equal to 4. So that gives me a equal to 4. And the sign has changed in this one. So they want it in terms of negative. So 2 negatives make a positive. So b's got to be -5. And k is the number that was stuck at the top. So at the beginning, I should say, is -1/12. So just watch that. If the signs are negative, change the sign of these numbers in the brackets. So that becomes 4 and that becomes -5. Right, that's a whole set of questions that I've done from the 2016 paper 1. It's about 20 minutes long, or just under 20 minutes. Learn how to do them.